I used to consider the Capital One Venture X Rewards credit card a no-brainer, but now I consider it more of a full-brainer. Today we're talking about if the Venture X is still worth it in 2026. I want to help current cardholders understand the recent changes and also speak to people who've never had it but are considering it to help you figure out if it actually makes sense for you. Today I'm going to walk through the changes, the perks that remain on this card, and talk about strategy shifts for venture miles in 2026 and beyond, as well as approval tips. Welcome back to Points for Normal People. I'm Katie, and I believe travel isn't just for the rich. I'm here to share easy-to-follow tips to help you supercharge your travel points so you can pay for entire vacations every year. I only call a limited number of cards no-brainers, and that's really reserved for cards where I think the value or the offer of the points are so good that they really make sense for almost everyone who can responsibly use credit cards. And the Venture X used to be one of those cards, but now it no longer is. That doesn't mean I don't think it's worth getting, and that doesn't mean I don't think it's worth keeping. But now I do think that every person has to take some time to understand the benefits on this card and how it works in order to make an informed decision. Now, when there's a limited time offer and you can earn more points than normal, it can skew the analysis toward getting a new card, and that's fine. But once you have it, it's important to make sure you're using the perks and that it makes sense to keep year after year. Whether the Venture X is worth it depends on who you travel with, what other cards you hold, and how you value the benefits. We'll walk through all of that today so you can make an informed decision. Now, I can't give a definitive recommendation because it also depends who you travel with, what other cards you hold, and how you value the benefits. But I'll share my tips. This card has an annual fee of $395 a year. So that's a bit hard to swallow when you're getting started with travel points. And for some people, you'll listen to this episode and realize it's not worth it for you. And that's fine. That's what I hope most of all, that you can listen to these podcast episodes and come out confident knowing whether a card is or isn't for you. If it isn't for you, you move on to something else. If it is for you, you'll know exactly how to extract all the value out of it. One of the big reasons this card used to be a no-brainer was that it was kind of like a three-legged stool with a trifecta of solid benefits. Yes, it has a $395 annual fee, but it also gives you a $300 travel credit each year and 10,000 bonus miles per year, which is worth a minimum of $100. Then on top of that, it had some of the most family-friendly lounge access policies. Between those three things, it was a winner, and it had extra benefits to boot. But in 2026, it's losing those generous guest policies for lounges. Right when we heard that announcement, it felt like the stool had a broken leg and now it was wobbly and it was hard to figure out if it was worth salvaging. But now that I've thought about it more, it feels more like it was a three-legged stool that used to have a really comfortable cushion. And it lost the cushion. But the stool itself still has some good craftsmanship, so we don't need to just throw it away. We just might need another cushion. And that's kind of a pain because it means making a decision and it's going to cost a little bit more money. That's how I see it anyway. I'm going to discuss all the major benefits on this card, but I'm going to leave those lounge access benefits to discuss towards the end of the episode because they're a bit more convoluted. Let's start with the easy to understand benefits, the solid benefits that aren't changing. Right off the bat, this card will give you a $300 annual travel credit each year. To use this, you have to make a booking at Capital One Travel. So it isn't as easy to use as the travel credit on the Chase Sapphire Reserve, but it's easier to use than some of the travel credits on other cards. The way the credit works is that your Venture X account essentially has a $300 coupon preloaded for Capital One Travel. You don't have to use it all at once. You can, for instance, book a $150 hotel room and then book a car rental later for $200. It would use up $150 for the hotel and then use up the rest on the car rental, and you just pay what's left. This is a card member year perk. That means you get access to it as soon as you sign up for the card. And then every year it will reset on your card member anniversary, which is essentially when you get charged the annual fee again. Previously, you could only use that $300 for flights or hotels or rental cars. But some good news is that Capital One Travel has now added activities, and you can book those with your credit as well. And I think that addition really helps the credit become more valuable. We've typically used our credit to book rental cars or to book independent hotels or hotels in smaller towns that might not have a hotel that's otherwise easy to book with points. But some years it's been a little harder to use, especially if we're getting down to the wire and we haven't used it. That happened to me this year, and I had $90 left to use right before it was going to expire. I was really struggling to figure out how to use it, but then I started browsing the new activities tab. And on there, I found a lot of great fun options. This can work even in your hometown, but also for trips. The one I personally picked was that I booked an escape room in Denver for my daughter and 2 of her cousins while we were visiting there. And the pricing was the same as booking other places online. There's also tours and museum entries and all sorts of options on there now. In addition to that $300 credit, you'll also get 10,000 miles every year on your account anniversary. So you don't get this the first year you have the card. It's just in the subsequent years when you're paying your annual fee again. Now, the first year, of course, you'll get a welcome offer, so you earn some extra bonus miles that way. This is one of the very few cards that earn transferable miles that also gives you anniversary bonus miles. And those 10,000 miles can be transferred to various travel partners. They can also be used just to give yourself a statement credit for any travel purchase you've made. So at the very least, those can be redeemed for $100 worth of travel. Now, these two benefits can effectively cover the $395 annual fee. And overall, they arguably make this more of a keeper than the $95 venture card, because you can mentally break even with the annual fee. Instead of with the venture card, you're out $95 each year you're keeping it. The only effort you have to put in is remembering to use your travel credit every year. Because this is a premium card, it also has some premium card benefits. But it gets those benefits at a relatively low annual fee. I don't think $395 is a low annual fee overall, but compared to other premium cards that have annual fees of $795 or $895, yes, it is less. So one of those premium benefits is Hertz President's Circle status. It's important to note that this isn't automatic, and you do have to sign up at a certain Hertz website and link your Hertz account with your Venture X card number. But when you do, you'll automatically get Hertz President's Circle status. We use this a lot for car rentals in the US. And what it gives you is that if you book a mid-size category or higher, at most US airports, you'll get to choose from what's called the ultimate choice aisle when you arrive. So usually you can pick an upgraded car like an SUV or even a convertible or a Tesla. As a side note, I really don't recommend booking with Hertz outside of the US, as their international franchises are notorious for extra fees and high-pressure insurance sales. We've had a few bad experiences overseas with Hertz, but within the US, we generally have a good experience. Even if you don't like booking with Hertz, you can also take that President's Circle status and ask other car rental companies to match it to a higher status with them, with your preferred company. There are a few tricks to making sure you get your President's Circle status recognized and for status matching it. So I'm going to link an article in the show notes if you want to read more about either of those. The Venture X also has return protection, which is another nice premium card benefit. Return protection means that if you buy an item and you aren't happy with it, and if the retailer won't take it back and give you a refund or exchange, you can still get reimbursed for that item. Now, this is time limited, so it's within 90 days of purchase. And there are some other limitations, like you can't return holiday decor or live plants that died. But most things are covered. One time I used this benefit was when I bought a few swimsuits on final sale online, and they turned out not to fit my daughter. Because they were final sale, the store would not accept a return, so I filed a return protection claim. I was given instructions to ship back the item to a certain warehouse address, and the cost of shipping was deducted from my final reimbursement, but I was still pretty happy to get anything back at all. This can also help when stores have a short return window, like Amazon often only gives you 30 days to make a return. Especially if you're like me and sometimes you miss those shorter return windows, this can be helpful. The terms even state it's applicable even if the item is open. So if a store won't take it back because you opened it, but you decide it isn't what you want, this covers that too. The Venture X also has cell phone protection, but unfortunately this one is becoming harder and harder to use. The way this works is that you need to pay for your cell bill with your credit card, and just paying for the bill activates this benefit. And if your cell phone is stolen or damaged, you can get $800, or up to the value of your phone. If it needs a repair, the coverage may just be for the repair. There is a $50 deductible for this, but that's pretty low compared to other cards with cell protection. Now, the big frustration for a lot of people is that a lot of cell services now charge extra for using a credit card to pay the bill. Like with T-Mobile, I now lose my auto pay discount of $5 per line if I pay with a credit card. And there used to be a workaround for this for T-Mobile, but as of November 2025, this is now closed. So I would have to pay $20 each month just to pay with my credit card, which is nuts. There is still a Verizon workaround, but it's fairly laborious and requires you to go and pay in person at a kiosk in a store. So the usability of this benefit varies a lot on your cell provider and if they let you pay with a credit card. As of now, I'm researching debit card options that give some cell phone protection, so I can keep my auto pay discount for T-Mobile and still get some sort of included protection. Once we have a more in-depth article on that, I'll send it out in the newsletter. So sign up if you're not on the list already. The newsletter goes out every Saturday morning and just includes all of our up-to-date tips. So those are all some solid benefits. $300 a year to Capital One Travel, 10,000 bonus miles on your account anniversary, return protection, cell phone protection, and Hertz President Circle status. In addition to all of those, the Venture X also has some benefits that are a little more common, so these might overlap with ones you have on other cards, but they're still worth mentioning here. So you'll get a credit for $120 every 4 years for Global Entry or TSA PreCheck. And now that Global Entry allows a parent to add all of their children under 18 to an application, any family really only needs 2 cards that have this benefit to cover this for both parents and everyone under 18. The Venture X also includes primary car rental insurance. So if you use this card to pay for a car rental and you get into an accident, your personal car insurance rates won't be affected. Now, this benefit is also available on the Chase Sapphire Preferred card for reference, so if you have that one, you do already have that over there. Other benefits it doubles up with the Sapphire Preferred on are purchase protection and extended warranty benefits. I discussed these in detail in Season 1 in an episode all about Sapphire Preferred benefits, but I just wanted to mention that these benefits are on this Venture X card as well, in case you're wondering. As a quick review, purchase protection or purchase security covers you if you have a new item that you've purchased in the past 90 days and it's stolen or damaged. The damaged part is really key here because it is the worst when you just bought something and you accidentally break it. But with this, you're covered for the repair or the replacement. So items that you buy that have a warranty, this extends that by a full year. The Venture X also has trip delay insurance and trip cancellation protections, but this is one area where it's generally not up to par for a premium card. In fact, it's not as good as the coverage on the Sapphire cards, so I recommend using one of those instead. That's because the Chase Sapphire cards offer trip cancellation protection for flights, cruises, rental cars, and lodging, whereas the Venture X only offers it for flights and cruises and other transportation. With this in mind, it means I'd recommend using a Chase Sapphire over the Venture X if you're specifically using it to lock in travel protections. The coverage amount is actually more with the Sapphires too. To be honest, this isn't an area I've always paid attention to for our personal travels because most hotels we book are refundable, or we're paying with some kind of points that are refundable. But I think it's helpful to know if you aren't using points and you have a Sapphire and a Venture X to choose from, I really recommend choosing the Sapphire for the better travel insurance benefits. With a Venture X, you also have access to booking travel through Capital One Travel. And Capital One Travel has some unique perks. Now, you'll likely be booking at least $300 of travel through Capital One Travel because you'll be trying to use up that $300 credit. Now, one disadvantage of booking with a third party like Capital One Travel is that if you have any hotel status with a particular chain, your benefits won't be applied. So I don't mind booking this way for independent hotels or with chains that we don't need to use status perks at. You also do earn 10 miles per dollar spent on hotels if you book them through Capital One Travel, so sometimes that can really make sense. With flights, it's a little bit more complicated. Some people strongly prefer to book directly with an airline so it's more straightforward for any flight issues. When you book with a third party, you often have to deal directly with that third party instead of with the airline up until the day of travel. Now, personally, I've had equally good and bad experiences with airline customer support and third-party customer support. So I personally haven't seen it make a huge difference either way. So we generally just follow the deals. One thing I do like about Capital One Travel is that it offers a price drop guarantee on airfare. So if your airfare drops in price, it actually gives you a travel credit for Capital One travel to use in the future. This is automated, and we once got it on a flight, and it was such a nice surprise. And that's something you don't ever get by booking direct. You can also choose to buy extra protection for flights that allows you to change to any flight available if your flight is canceled. I purchased this once when I was buying a ticket for a friend, and I just really wanted the peace of mind that if her flight was canceled, we could get her on any other flight that day. But still, I think booking flights in Capital One Travel is best for flights that you're really sure you're going to take. There's also a price match guarantee you can use for hotels and car rentals. So if you find a lower price elsewhere, you can submit it to them and you can get a credit for Capital One Travel for the difference. I do think it's important to weigh various pluses of booking with Capital One Travel rather than just instantly writing it off. There's a lot of bloggers and creators who just say point blank, you should never book in a bank's travel portal. But I think that that's simplistic and honestly somewhat naive. There are lots of reasons you might want to book in a bank travel portal, but you just have to be aware that it won't help you earn hotel status, and your customer service experience might be different. We have a detailed article all about booking in travel portals that I will link in the show notes if you want to read more up about that. One more tiny perk I want to mention is that if you're near a Capital One cafe, you can get 50% off drinks just by showing your Capital One card. We don't use this frequently, but we do when we're in Chicago, as there's a Capital One cafe right down in the theater district. So inside there's a Pete's Coffee with a full coffee menu, and so you can get 50% off there. Now I want to transition to talking about lounge benefits and how they've changed. Then we'll talk about strategy and application tips. Lounge access used to be a great perk on this card, but no longer is a slam dunk. There are a few cases where it is still really useful though. Last week we talked about lounge access, and I mentioned how the Venture X lounge access is really going downhill starting February 1st, 2026. The biggest changes is that starting February 1st, as a Venture X cardholder, you don't automatically get to bring any guests in with you to Capital One or Priority Pass lounges. And your authorized users won't automatically have lounge access for either network either. If you want access for guests, you'll have to either pay per visit for guests or spend a lot of money each year on your card. So if you spend $75,000 a year on that card, you can then get 2 guests in the lounges with you every time you go. Or you could pay $45 for an adult guest to visit the Capital One lounge, or $25 for a child. Or if you really want a specific person to have unlimited lounge access for themselves, you can pay a $125 annual fee for an authorized user to upgrade to lounge access for themselves. It was a surprise for me to see such a pendulum swing, from some of the most generous guest access to the absolute worst. Least affected, of course, are solo travelers. If that's you, this card still works for you for lounge access. But if you happen to travel occasionally with a friend or family member, you'd have to either pay for them to access the lounge or leave them outside. For Priority Pass access, this is truly the worst access of any card. I can't think of any other card that gives you no Priority Pass guests. Really, the only truly unique benefit of this card is the ability to access Capital One lounges. But to be honest, Capital One has really fallen behind Chase when it comes to continuing to open new lounge locations. Once the currently announced lounges are all built, the only airport that will have a Capital One lounge but no Sapphire lounge is Denver. Every other airport with a Capital One lounge will also have a Sapphire lounge as an alternate option. So for all those other airports, you could pursue getting a Chase Sapphire card, or even better, a Ritz card for really good lounge access. But I think about this a lot because we fly to Denver a lot to visit family. If you're in and out of Denver frequently, this feels like a more complicated decision. So if that's you, if you fly in and out of Denver a lot, my recommendation is just to do the math to see how often you go, and if paying $125 for a second adult to get access really makes sense. Since it costs $45 to enter, you'd have to go a minimum of 3 times a year to even break even versus paying per visit. Kids cost $25 per visit, so you'd have to take a kid more than 5 times to make it worth it to get another card in their name. But also remember that you can take items to go as well. So you could send the card holder in and have them come out with snacks for everyone. Another option is that if you find the Capital One travel credit easy to use, you could double up in a household and get 2 Venture X cards for your household. Or one person could get a Venture X and the other could get a Venture X business card, which the business version actually will still give at least priority pass guest access for 2 guests. Other than that, specifically for lounge access, you'll need an additional card if you're a family or even a couple. The VentureX is no longer a standalone card for people who want lounge access and travel with others. It doesn't mean the VentureX isn't worth having. You can see this has a good number of other benefits. It's just that the lounge access in particular is really only good for one person. Overall, most people will need to pair this with another card or 2 to get a full suite of travel perks and benefits. Now, that's not intrinsically a bad thing, because if you follow along with me, you'll see that opening multiple cards help you earn more rewards, more benefits, and you can do it all while keeping your credit score high. But the downside here is that if you're looking for a very simple solution and a one card that can sort of rule them all, this isn't it. One quick exception would be if you're a solo traveler who wants to keep it as simple as possible. In that case, you could get this card and get all the premium benefits and lounge access for yourself. And then you could supplement the travel insurance on the card if you're booking non-refundable reservations for cruises or lodging. And if you're worried about the lack of the travel insurance for lodging, you could supplement travel insurance by buying it for specific trips. For the rest of us, this card, this VentureX, can still be a strong component of a big picture strategy. Generally speaking, I think frequent travelers should have a well-balanced wallet with a few key perks. And that's probably a whole podcast episode in and of itself, building your ideal well-balanced wallet. For me, I like to have the following. So I like to have good protection for purchases of items and goods, including return protection. I like to have good trip protection that activates even if I pay just a small amount on the card, like taxes. I used to say cell phone protection was really important to me, except that now that I'm a T-Mobile customer, that's no good to me anymore. And then one more is that I value the ability to get our whole family into lounges. And then I also like having cards in different ecosystems to keep transferable points alive and for different earning opportunities. Sometimes the cards I'm using to cover all of these bases may change from year to year. For me, this card used to check the box for lounge access, but it doesn't anymore. It will still get at least one of us into the Capital One lounges, and we'll probably get some food to go when we're in Denver. But that's now a small perk. It could still check a box for good purchase protection and return protection. It could check the box of cell phone protection if I had a different provider that took credit card payment without penalizing me. But the biggest reason I will personally keep it is that it allows me to earn venture miles and keep my venture miles alive. I have a whole other episode on how to use venture miles and specific sweet spots. I won't go into all of that here, but while I'm on the topic, I want to mention 2 notable changes to venture mile transfers. Capital One actually added a few transfer partners, and the most notable one is Japan Airlines, or JAL. This is especially great if you're planning a trip to Japan because JAL is one of the nicest ways to fly to Japan. And JAL releases a lot more seats that you can book with points to its own loyalty program. If Japan is on your list, definitely check out our new JAL article, which is very in-depth about all of this, about creating a strategy to fly to Japan with points. A bit of a sad news is that one of our favorite Capital One transfer partners, Wyndham, is losing the ability to book Vacasa vacation homes. Now, this is a loss for families and groups, and we are sad to see this go. Again, we do have an in-depth episode about great uses for venture miles that I will link in the show notes. There's a lot of options there, and so overall, I like keeping my venture miles alive by holding at least one card in the venture family. It also keeps me eligible for Capital One offers, which sometimes have some really strong earning opportunities for online shopping. Maybe in the future, I'll choose to try to downgrade it to a no annual fee Venture One card, but for my own purposes right now, it doesn't take me too much work to use my $300 travel credit each year now that I can redeem it for activities. So it's worth it for me, and I do like some of the bonus perks like Hertz status too. And I like the option of going to the Capital One lounge even if we might have to pay for it. We might do that for a long layover. The VentureX can be a particularly good option to pair with a Chase Sapphire Preferred, because you can get the better purchase protections on the VentureX, and then you could use your Sapphire card to book travel and get the better travel protections. You'd still need a third option for lounge access, though. And it's true that more of the VentureX benefits become redundant if you're already getting other premium cards, like a Chase Sapphire Reserve or Ritz-Carlton card or an American Express Platinum card, unless you're specifically using the Capital One lounges. The last thing I want to discuss is application tips and application strategy. I have always recommended getting a Capital One Venture or VentureX card early in your points journey. That's because Capital One is a bit finicky about approvals. There is no guaranteed set of rules we've been able to work out about how to know if you'll get approved. Having a high credit score, for instance, does not make you a shoo-in. But there are a few factors that seem to help with approval, so I'll go over those first. Also, note that Capital One doesn't really seem to offer reconsideration if you get declined. Other banks, you can often call in and say, hey, I was declined, but here's why I'm interested in this card. Can you reconsider your denial? Capital One doesn't seem to do that, so it's best to go in with your best possible chance of approval. So one thing that does seem to help is having very few or no new credit inquiries in the past 6 months. That's one reason it helps to apply early on when you're getting into travel points, so you don't have a bunch of inquiries on your credit report. Another little tip for approval is that Capital One always pulls all 3 credit bureaus, but they will still approve you if you have Experian frozen, as long as the other 2, TransUnion and Equifax, are thawed. A lot of banks pull your credit using Experian, so it often has the highest number of credit inquiries. So if you freeze Experian, some of those inquiries are hidden from them, and it seems to help with approval. Capital One also has an odd question that asks if you plan to carry a balance. Now, as we've discussed, you don't want to actually carry a balance on a credit card like this because the interest rates are astronomical. But this question is just an optional question for informational purposes. And anecdotally, it seems like it may help if you say you do often carry a balance on your credit cards. Some people think this is because the bank is looking for customers that will help make them more money. We don't really know. But those are the best tips I can offer for increasing your chance of approval. Apply early in your travel points journey. Ideally, apply when you don't have any other credit inquiries in the past 6 months. Keep your Experian credit report frozen when you apply, and select that you will likely carry a balance. Another change that affects strategy is new eligibility rules for getting the welcome offer. These rolled out in November 2025, and we had no notice or indication this was coming. Now, I don't think these are a huge deal, even though on first glance they might seem like it, and I'll explain why. It used to be that all the cards in the Venture family were all considered independent from each other as far as eligibility for card offers goes. So if you got a Venture X card and got the welcome offer, it didn't affect your eligibility for a Venture card offer. But now, unfortunately, it does. Capital One has now followed in American Express's footsteps in the way that these terms work. So if you want to get the bonuses on all 3 Venture cards, Venture 1, which has no annual fee, Venture, which has a $95 fee, and Venture X with a $395 fee, you'd have to start with the Venture 1 and then move up to each next more expensive card. That's because the Venture 1 card with no annual fee now has eligibility language that states you aren't eligible for the welcome offer if you have gotten a new member offer on either the Venture or the Venture X in the past 48 months. And the Venture card now says that you will be ineligible for the welcome offer on that card if you've gotten the offer on the Venture card or the higher annual fee Venture X in the past 48 months. The Venture X actually remains the same. You can't get the offer if you've gotten it in the past 48 months. The implication is that it's a little harder to decide if you should apply for the Venture or the Venture X first. By applying straight for the Venture X, you're blocking the possibility of getting a Venture bonus for the next 48 months. But to be honest, I don't think this is the hugest deal breaker. And that's because, first of all, it's hard to get approved for multiple cards from Capital One, the personal cards anyway. So it's sometimes hard to get approved for a Venture and a Venture X anyway. But the other factor is that there are other Capital One card families that can allow you to combine their cash back with Venture miles. Now, most of these are business cards, and the downside of Capital One business cards is that most of them report to your personal credit report, which means they add to your 524 count. But that's the same as the Venture card. The Venture card is a personal card, and it also adds to your 524 account. So if you open a Venture X, or you recently opened one, and gave up that chance to earn more Venture miles by opening a $95 Venture card, you still have all the Spark Cash cards, you still even have the Spark Miles cards, as well as some other options. Some of those even have the annual fee waived for the first year, or no annual fee at all. So in some ways, they're arguably a better pair with the Venture X card. Cashback Capital One cards like Spark Cash cards allow you to move your cash back over and convert it to Venture miles. That gives you extra options then of transferring to those hotel and airline programs. If you're a person that likes to use your venture miles to offset travel purchases using the purchase eraser, cashback is actually better because it's the same rate as the travel eraser, but you don't need to make sure a purchase codes as travel. You can just get the cash back. All that to say, I don't think these eligibility rule changes are a huge deal because there are other ways to earn more venture miles. That's a lot of info today, so let's wrap it up with some action steps. First, if you currently hold a Venture X, next time your annual fee comes due, I encourage you to make a call and ask if they have any retention offers for you. Capital One traditionally has not had any on this card, but we have been seeing more and more data points of people being offered retention offers on their Venture X cards this year, possibly because of all of these negative changes to lounge access. So it's definitely worth calling to see if they have any offers for you. If you have a Venture X, be sure you've signed up for Priority Pass and Hertz President Circle, as those do require you to manually sign up for them. If you have a Venture X and you're disappointed about the change and how you will no longer be able to get a Venture card offer, take a look at our list in the show notes of other cards that can still help you earn Venture miles. If you don't have a Venture X, take a look at the limited time 100,000 mile offer to see if it makes sense for you. This is 25,000 miles more than the standard offer. For everyone, even if you don't have a Venture X, take a minute and make a plan about which card you're using regularly for shopping benefits like purchase security and extended warranty protection. If you have a Venture X, it's a great one since it also has return protection. Get in the habit of using that card for purchases you expect to keep longer or purchases you're unsure about keeping in the first place. This can be a bit tricky when you're working on a new card's minimum spend, but do your best. If you're new, I also wanted to give you a quick reminder on how we fund our work. Everything I offer on my site, my podcast, and my social media channels, even my course, are absolutely free to you, which I know can seem kind of scammy. So I like to be absolutely transparent about how I keep things running. When you use my affiliate links to apply for credit cards instead of just searching for the offer on Google, I earn a commission. But don't worry, I only share the best offers, even if I don't make a dime. My mission is to help, and luckily things tend to balance out in the end. Current best offers are always listed on our website, but we're also working on adding a page where you can browse all offers, whether or not I'm designating it as a current best offer. And that'll have affiliate and non-affiliate offers to make it even easier for you to compare. If you're ever applying for a card, we appreciate it so much when you use my affiliate links. Sometimes when people can't find a certain card on the site, they email or message us and ask if we have an affiliate link, and I'm so grateful that you all are so thoughtful. Thank you for helping us stick to our mission of being able to produce high-quality content that's accessible to everyone, because we don't think you should have to pay money to learn how to save money. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time where we will continue to unlock these secrets of travel points together.